Alex Morgan stood at the edge of his penthouse balcony, the cityscape of New York stretching out before him like a sea of endless possibilities. His life was a testament to success, glittering parties, powerful friends, and a thriving business empire. Yet deep inside, there was an emptiness, a nagging question that wealth could never answer. How does the world truly see a person who seems to have nothing? Determined to uncover the raw, unfiltered truth, Alex concocted a daring plan. He would step away from his luxurious life and dive into a world where his name held no power. He would become invisible. One rainy evening, Alex exchanged his tailored suit for ragged clothes. His reflection in the mirror was almost unrecognizable. The man staring back at him was a stranger, disheveled hair, worn-out coat, and shoes that had seen better days. His heart pounded with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Would they see the man beneath the rags, or just the facade he wore? With a deep breath, Alex walked out of his opulent apartment, leaving behind the trappings of his wealth. He wandered the bustling streets, his steps heavy with anticipation. The Golden Gate awaited him, a sanctuary for the elite, and tonight, his stage for revelation. As he approached the grand entrance of the restaurant, he felt the eyes of the doorman on him, a flicker of disdain in their gaze. He took a step inside, the warmth and opulence of the Golden Gate contrasting sharply with the chill of the evening outside. The chandeliers sparkled, and the scent of gourmet cuisine wafted through the air, a stark reminder of the world he was now an outsider to. "Excuse me, sir, but you can't be here," a waiter sneered, looking Alex up and down with barely concealed contempt. The words stung, each syllable a blow to the dignity he had momentarily shed. The humiliation was real, and it gnawed at his resolve. Before Alex could respond, another waiter joined, their voices blending into a symphony of scorn. "This place is not for people like you," they declared, their tone dripping with superiority. They moved to usher him out, hands ready to discard him like an unwanted burden. But just then, a voice of calm authority cut through the tension. What seems to be the problem here?" Ethan Wilson, the owner of the Golden Gate, approached with measured steps. His eyes, sharp and discerning, surveyed the scene. Alex held his breath, his heart a tempest of hope and fear. Ethan's gaze lingered on Alex, but there was no recognition, just a flicker of curiosity. "Everyone deserves a meal," Ethan said firmly, silencing the protests of his staff. He gestured for Alex to follow him, leading him to a secluded table. As Alex sat down, his heart ached with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. He had only begun to scratch the surface of his experiment, yet already he felt the weight of the world's judgment. The night was young, and the path ahead promised more revelations, each step a deeper dive into the human condition. As Alex settled into the plush chair, he couldn't shake the mix of emotions swirling within him. Ethan's unexpected kindness was a beacon in a night filled with contempt. The warm glow of the restaurant's candles cast flickering shadows, creating an ambience that felt surreal. Alex's senses were heightened, every glance from the other patrons, every whispered comment, cutting deeper than any physical wound. Ethan returned with a menu, his expression softening. "I'm sorry for the way my staff treated you," he said, a hint of regret in his voice. "Please, order anything you like. Tonight, you're my guest." Alex's throat tightened. The gesture was simple, yet profound. It had been so long since anyone looked at him without preconceived notions, without the lens of his wealth. He nodded, barely trusting his voice to respond. Thank you," he managed to say, his voice rough with unspoken emotion. As Ethan walked away, Alex's gaze followed him, filled with gratitude and curiosity. How had he not recognized him? Years had passed since their last encounter, but had life changed them both so much? Alex remembered Ethan as a kind soul, always looking out for the underdog. Yet tonight, Ethan was more than just an old friend, he was a lifeline in a sea of disdain. A waiter approached with a reluctant smile, placing a glass of water in front of Alex. The pity in his eyes was palpable. "Would you like some bread while you wait?" he asked, his tone forced. "Yes, please," Alex replied, his voice steadying. The small act of civility felt like a victory, a step towards proving that everyone deserved respect, regardless of their appearance. As the evening unfolded, Alex observed the opulence around him, the laughter of wealthy diners, the clinking of expensive glasses, the air thick with privilege. He felt like an outsider peering into a world that once was his, now alien and unwelcoming. Suddenly, a commotion near the kitchen drew his attention. A young waitress, her face pale with fear, was being berated by a towering chef. The harsh words sliced through the ambient noise, sending a shiver down Alex's spine. He watched as the girl, Sarah, cowered under the chef's tirade, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. His heart pounded with empathy and anger. The scene struck a chord deep within him. He had to do something. Rising from his seat, Alex moved towards the confrontation, every step fueled by a sense of justice that transcended his current disguise. "Is everything all right here?" Alex's voice was firm, echoing through the sudden silence that had fallen over the room. The chef turned, his face flushed with anger, eyes narrowing at the interruption. Who do you think you are?" The chef spat, his words laced with venom. This is none of your business." Alex stood his ground, the fire of determination burning in his eyes. "I won't stand by and watch someone be treated this way," he declared, his voice unwavering. The room seemed to hold its breath, the tension thick and palpable. Ethan appeared again, his face a mask of concern and confusion. What's going on here?" he demanded, stepping between Alex and the irate chef. His eyes flickered with recognition, the realization dawning slowly but surely. Alex." Ethan's voice was a whisper, the single word hanging in the air like a lifeline. The revelation sent ripples through the restaurant, the whispers growing louder, the judgmental stares turning into ones of astonishment. "Yes, Ethan. It's me," Alex confessed, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He felt exposed, vulnerable, yet strangely liberated. His experiment had taken an unexpected turn, revealing more about human nature than he had anticipated. Ethan's eyes softened, the shock giving way to a deep, abiding respect. Let's talk," he said, his voice steady, offering a hand to his old friend. Together, they walked towards a private room, leaving the stunned patrons and staff in their wake. The night was far from over, and as they sat down to talk, Alex knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything, for him, for Ethan, and for everyone who crossed their path. In the private room, the air was thick with unspoken words and the remnants of disbelief. Alex and Ethan sat across from each other, a small table and a world of uncharted emotions between them. The murmurs from the dining hall faded into a distant hum, leaving them in a cocoon of tense silence. Ethan's eyes, once clouded with shock, now gleamed with a mixture of concern and curiosity. Alex," he began, his voice gentle, "what are you doing here like this?" Alex took a deep breath, the weight of his journey pressing heavily on his chest. "I needed to see," he said, his voice tinged with a raw vulnerability. "I needed to understand how the world treats those who have nothing. I wanted to strip away my identity and see the truth." Ethan leaned back, absorbing the magnitude of Alex's words. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in as the gravity of the situation settled over them. "And what did you find?" Ethan asked softly, his eyes searching Alex's face. A bitter smile tugged at Alex's lips. "I found a world that judges harshly, that values appearances over humanity," he replied. "I was almost thrown out of here tonight because I didn't fit the mold. And then I saw Sarah being mistreated by someone who should have been her mentor." Ethan's expression darkened, the reality of his restaurant's flaws hitting him hard. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I never imagined it was this bad." "It's not just here, Ethan," Alex said, his voice growing firmer. "It's everywhere. But it's not too late to change it." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Sarah stood there, her face pale but resolute. "Excuse me," as she said quietly, her eyes darting between Alex and Ethan. "I just wanted to thank you, sir, for standing up for me." Alex rose from his chair, his heart swelling with empathy. You shouldn't have to thank me for that, Sarah, he said gently. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect. Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I just wanted you to know that your kindness made a difference. As she turned to leave, Alex felt a surge of determination. Sarah, wait, he called out, his voice steady. You don't have to put up with that treatment anymore. We're going to make things right. Ethan nodded in agreement, his expression one of newfound resolve. Alex is right. We need to change the way things are done around here. We'll start by addressing the issues and ensuring that everyone is treated fairly. The sincerity in their words seemed to lift a burden from Sarah's shoulders. She smiled, a genuine, heartfelt expression that lit up her face. Thank you, she whispered before leaving the room, a sense of hope in her step. As the door closed behind her, Ethan turned to Alex, his eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and determination. We have a lot of work to do, he said, his voice resolute. Alex nodded, a fire igniting within him. Yes, we do. And it starts here tonight. Together, they began to lay out a plan, their conversation filled with passionate ideas and fervent promises. They discussed ways to foster a more inclusive environment, to provide training and support for their staff, and to create opportunities for those who had been overlooked. Hours passed, the night deepening around them, but neither of them felt the weight of time. Their shared vision breathed life into their words, transforming their ideas into tangible actions. By the time they emerged from the private room, a new dawn was breaking, both outside the restaurant and within their hearts. The changes wouldn't happen overnight, but they had taken the first crucial steps. Alex's experiment had revealed a harsh reality, but it also sparked a movement towards justice and compassion. The journey ahead was daunting, but with Ethan by his side and a renewed sense of purpose, Alex was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The world might judge by appearances, but Alex had discovered the power of looking deeper, of seeing the humanity that lay beneath the surface. And in that discovery, he found not just the truth he sought, but a mission that would redefine his life and the lives of countless others. As dawn's first light seeped through the restaurant's windows, casting a soft glow on the ornate decor, Alex and Ethan emerged from their intense planning session with a renewed sense of purpose. The dining area, now quiet and empty, felt like a different world from the one they had stepped into the night before. The echoes of laughter and judgment had faded, replaced by a profound silence that spoke volumes about the night's revelations. Alex's heart ached with the weight of the injustices he had witnessed, his mind replaying the scene of Sarah's plight. He knew that their plans for change were just the beginning, but the real work lay in confronting the toxic behavior that had taken root within the restaurant's walls. Determined, Alex sought out Sarah, finding her in the break room, her head bowed over a cup of coffee. Her shoulders were hunched, a visible sign of the burden she carried. Alex's presence startled her, and she looked up, her eyes widening with surprise and a flicker of hope. "Sarah," Alex began, his voice gentle yet resolute, "I wanted to check on you. Are you all right?" She nodded slowly, though the weariness in her eyes told a different story. "I'm fine, Mr. Morgan," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for standing up for me last night." Alex pulled up a chair, sitting across from her, his gaze unwavering. "You don't have to go through this alone. We're going to make changes, but I need to know what's been happening. You deserve to be heard." Sarah's eyes welled up with tears, her guard crumbling under the weight of his sincerity. She took a shaky breath, her voice trembling as she began to speak. "It's been difficult," as she confessed. "The chef has always been harsh, but lately, it's gotten worse. He yells, he belittles us, and no one dares to speak up. We're all afraid of losing our jobs." Each word she spoke cut through Alex like a knife, the pain and fear in her voice a stark reminder of the world he had been blind to. "Sarah, I promise you, things will change. No one should have to work in fear." Ethan entered the break room, his face set with determination. He had overheard their conversation, and his expression mirrored Alex's resolve. "We're going to address this immediately," he said firmly. "The chef's behavior is unacceptable, and it ends today." Sarah looked between them, a glimmer of hope shining through her tears. Thank you," as she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't think anyone cared." Alex reached out, covering her hand with his. We care, Sarah. You're not alone in this." The day that followed was a whirlwind of actions and emotions. Ethan called a staff meeting, his voice echoing through the restaurant as he addressed the gathered employees. He spoke of respect, of change, and of the commitment to create a safe and supportive environment for everyone. The chef was confronted, his abusive behavior laid bare before the staff. There was resistance, denial, but Ethan's stance was unwavering. Alex watched as the toxic undercurrent began to shift, the solidarity among the employees growing stronger. He felt a sense of pride and responsibility, knowing that this was just the beginning of a larger movement. The experiment that had started as a quest for truth had evolved into a mission of transformation, and Alex was determined to see it through. As the day drew to a close, Sarah approached Alex once more, her eyes reflecting a newfound strength. "I've decided to stay," as she said, her voice steady. "I want to be part of the change." Alex smiled, a surge of admiration for her courage. "You're stronger than you know, Sarah. Together, we'll make this place better." The journey was far from over, but with each step, they were building a foundation of trust and respect. Alex knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but with allies like Ethan and Sarah by his side, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The injustice that had once thrived in the shadows was now being brought into the light, and Alex was committed to ensuring that it would never take root again. The experiment had revealed the darkness, but it had also ignited a beacon of hope, a promise of a better future for all. The following evening, the Golden Gate buzzed with its usual clientele of affluent diners, the air filled with laughter and the clinking of crystal glasses. But underneath the polished veneer, a quiet revolution was unfolding. Alex returned, this time shedding his disguise but not the determination that had fueled his experiment. His heart pounded with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety as he stepped through the grand entrance, now seen through the eyes of both a patron and an advocate for change. Ethan met him at the door, his expression a blend of camaraderie and respect. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice steady but carrying the weight of what was about to transpire. Alex nodded, his resolve firm. "It's time." Together, they walked into the heart of the restaurant, the curious gazes of the staff and patrons following their every move. Ethan signaled for the room's attention, his authoritative presence commanding silence. The chatter ceased, replaced by a hush of anticipation. "A good evening, everyone," Ethan began, his voice carrying across the room. Tonight, we have something important to address. Many of you know Alex Morgan as a successful businessman and a valued friend. But last night, you encountered a different side of him." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, confusion and curiosity sparking in their eyes. Alex stepped forward, his heart racing, but his voice steady. "Last night, I came here not as the man you all know, but as someone different. I dressed as a homeless man to see how I would be treated." Gasps of surprise and disbelief echoed around the room. The reality of his words settled over the crowd, shock and embarrassment flickering across faces. "I wanted to understand the treatment of those who appear to have nothing," Alex continued, his gaze sweeping over the assembled guests and staff. What I witnessed was eye-opening. The way I was almost thrown out, the disdain I received, this is how we treat the less fortunate. This is how we measure a person's worth." A profound silence followed, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. Alex turned to Sarah, who stood at the edge of the crowd, her face a mixture of hope and fear. "And it's not just about how we treat strangers. Last night, I saw one of our own being mistreated. Sarah, a dedicated and hard-working waitress, faced harassment and disrespect." All eyes turned to Sarah, her cheeks flushing under the attention, but she stood tall, a newfound strength radiating from her. Ethan stepped in, his voice filled with conviction. "From this moment on, we will no longer tolerate such behavior. We will treat every individual with the dignity and respect they deserve, regardless of their appearance or position." The room erupted into applause, a wave of agreement and support. The patrons who had once looked down on Alex now gazed at him with newfound respect, their own biases laid bare. The staff, inspired by Sarah's bravery and Alex's revelation, felt a sense of solidarity and hope. As the applause died down, Ethan continued, "And we are committed to making this change not just in this restaurant but in every facet of our business. We will provide training, support, and opportunities for growth. We will create an environment where everyone feels valued." Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes as she stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "Thank you, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Wilson. This means more than words can say. To all my colleagues, we are in this together. Let's make this a place where we are proud to work, where we respect each other." The crowd erupted again, a palpable energy of change and unity filling the room. Alex felt a surge of pride and relief, the culmination of his journey not just revealing a harsh truth but igniting a movement towards something better. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere in the Golden Gate transformed. The usual conversations were interspersed with discussions about empathy and change. Alex watched as Sarah and her colleagues interacted with a renewed sense of camaraderie, their smiles genuine, their spirits lifted. Ethan clapped a hand on Alex's shoulder, his eyes reflecting gratitude and determination. "And we've started something important here, Alex. Thank you for having the courage to reveal the truth." Alex smiled, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. "This is just the beginning, Ethan. Together, we can make a difference. For Sarah, for everyone." As the night drew to a close, Alex felt a deep sense of peace. His experiment had brought to light the need for change, but it had also shown him the power of courage, empathy, and unity. The journey ahead was still long, but with each step, they were creating a world where everyone was seen, heard, and valued. And that, he realized, was worth more than all the wealth in the world. Days turned into weeks, and the Golden Gate began to feel the effects of Alex and Ethan's new policies. There was a newfound energy in the air, a sense of purpose that transcended the elegant decor and exquisite cuisine. The staff, once wary and divided, now worked together with a spirit of camaraderie that had been absent for far too long. Yet, despite the positive changes, shadows of resistance lingered, brewing just beneath the surface. Alex, now a frequent presence in the restaurant, could feel the undercurrents of tension. Not everyone embraced the changes with open arms. Whispers of dissent and resistance flowed through the corridors, the voices of those who preferred the old ways, who saw the reforms as a threat to their control and authority. One evening, as the restaurant bustled with its usual crowd of patrons, Alex noticed a group of senior staff members huddled together, their expressions dark and conspiratorial. His instincts, honed by years of navigating the treacherous waters of business, told him that something was amiss. His heart pounded as he approached them, the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. "Is everything all right here?" he asked, his voice calm but authoritative. The group fell silent, their eyes shifting uncomfortably. One of them, a seasoned maitre d' named Thomas, stepped forward, his gaze challenging. "Mr. Morgan, not everyone agrees with the changes you've implemented. Some of us believe you're undermining the very fabric of this establishment." Alex met Thomas's gaze, his own eyes reflecting a mix of determination and empathy. "The fabric of this establishment is built on respect and dignity for all," he replied. "If that threatens the status quo, then so be it." Thomas's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. "A respect is earned, not given freely. These changes, you're making us weak." Alex's heart ached at the resistance, the stubborn refusal to see the greater good. "A strength lies in unity and compassion, Thomas. These changes are about lifting everyone up, not tearing anyone down." Before Thomas could respond, a commotion erupted from the kitchen. The sound of raised voices, the clatter of pots and pans, and then, a loud crash. Alex's pulse quickened, and he rushed towards the source of the disturbance, Ethan close on his heels. They burst into the kitchen to find Sarah standing her ground against the chef, whose face was flushed with rage. "This is unacceptable," the chef bellowed. You think you can come in here and change everything? Sarah's hands trembled, but her voice was steady. We're trying to make things better for everyone. You can't keep treating us like this. The chef's eyes blazed with fury, and for a moment, it seemed he might lash out. Alex stepped forward, placing himself between the chef and Sarah. That's enough, he said, his voice low and firm. This behavior stops now. The chef's defiance faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. You think you can just waltz in here and change everything overnight? He sneered, but the venom in his voice was waning. We're not changing everything overnight, Alex replied, his tone measured. But we are changing. And it's time you decide if you want to be part of that change. A tense silence filled the room, the weight of the confrontation hanging heavily in the air. The chef glanced around, seeing the resolute faces of his colleagues, the silent support for Alex and Sarah. His shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. Fine, he muttered, turning away. I'll do my job. As the chef retreated, the tension in the kitchen began to dissipate. Sarah let out a shaky breath, her eyes meeting Alex's with a mixture of gratitude and relief. Thank you, as she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You did great, Sarah. You stood up for what's right. Ethan stepped forward, addressing the kitchen staff. We're all in this together. If anyone has concerns or ideas, my door is always open. But respect and dignity are non-negotiable. The staff nodded, their expressions a blend of relief and determination. The battle for change was far from over, but they had taken another crucial step forward. Alex felt a surge of pride and hope, knowing that they were on the right path. As the night wore on, the Golden Gate buzzed with its usual elegance, but beneath the surface, a new foundation was being laid, one built on unity, respect, and the unwavering belief in a better future for all. Alex knew there would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight, but with allies like Sarah and Ethan by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. And as he looked around the room, seeing the faces of those who had once judged him now filled with a sense of shared purpose, he realized that the true strength of an establishment wasn't in its opulence, but in the heart and spirit of its people. Weeks passed, each day a testament to the gradual but unwavering transformation taking place within the Golden Gate. The staff, once divided by fear and resentment, now moved with a newfound purpose. Laughter and camaraderie replaced the tense silence, and the restaurant thrived like never before. But the true test of their resolve was yet to come. One evening, as the restaurant prepared for another busy night, Alex received an unexpected call from an old mentor, Jonathan, the man who had once been a guiding light in his own journey to success. Jonathan had heard whispers of the changes at the Golden Gate and wanted to see it for himself. His visit would be the ultimate validation, or challenge, of everything Alex and Ethan had worked towards. Jonathan arrived, his presence commanding respect. His eyes, sharp and discerning, took in every detail as he walked through the restaurant, his expression unreadable. Alex felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach, the stakes of the evening suddenly feeling overwhelming. Ethan greeted Jonathan warmly, but there was an undercurrent of tension. Welcome, Jonathan. We're honored to have you here. Jonathan nodded, his gaze shifting to Alex. I've heard a lot about what you're doing here, Alex. I'm eager to see if it lives up to the talk. The evening unfolded with a heightened sense of anticipation. Jonathan observed everything, the interactions between the staff, the treatment of customers, the quality of the service. Alex watched, his heart pounding, as Jonathan's expression remained inscrutable. Halfway through the evening, a minor crisis erupted. A disgruntled patron, dissatisfied with his meal, began to raise his voice, his complaints escalating into a scene. The staff moved swiftly to address the situation, but it was Sarah who stepped forward, her voice calm and soothing. I'm sorry you're unhappy with your meal, sir. Let us make it right for you, as she said, her tone respectful yet firm. The patron's anger simmered, but Sarah's genuine concern and professionalism slowly diffused the situation. She handled it with a grace and poise that spoke volumes about the changes within the restaurant. Jonathan watched intently, his expression thoughtful. As the evening wound down, Jonathan approached Alex and Ethan, his demeanor serious. What I witnessed tonight was more than just good service, he began, his voice carrying the weight of his years of experience. I saw a place transformed by respect and integrity. Alex felt a surge of relief and pride, but Jonathan wasn't finished. However, he continued, a true change is tested in adversity. What will you do when faced with challenges that push against these new values? Ethan stepped forward, his voice unwavering. We'll stand by our principles. Respect and dignity aren't negotiable, regardless of the pressures we face. Jonathan's eyes softened, a rare smile touching his lips. You've done well, Alex. You've created something remarkable here. But remember, the journey of change is continuous. Never become complacent. As Jonathan departed, Alex felt a deep sense of validation. But his mentor's words also reminded him of the ongoing nature of their mission. The changes they had made were significant, but they had to remain vigilant, always striving to uphold the values they had fought so hard to instill. Later that night, as the restaurant emptied and the staff gathered for a moment of reflection, Alex addressed them, his voice filled with emotion. Tonight, we proved that change is possible. We've come a long way, but our journey isn't over. We must continue to support each other, to stand up for what's right, and to ensure that this place remains a beacon of respect and dignity. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. We're with you, Alex. Together, we can keep this place true to our values. Ethan nodded, his arm around Sarah's shoulders. We've built something special here. Let's make sure it lasts. As the staff dispersed, Alex stood alone for a moment, taking in the quiet beauty of the restaurant. The journey had been arduous, filled with moments of doubt and struggle. But looking around, seeing the changes etched into the very fabric of the Golden Gate, he knew it had all been worth it. The restaurant, once a symbol of elitism and superficiality, had become a haven of respect and unity. And as Alex looked ahead, he felt a deep sense of hope. They had faced the shadows, confronted the injustices, and emerged stronger. The true test of their resolve would come in the days and years ahead, but with the spirit of compassion and integrity guiding them, Alex knew they were ready. The new dawn at the Golden Gate was more than a change in policies, it was a transformation of hearts and minds. And as Alex walked out into the night, he felt a profound peace, knowing that they had created not just a better restaurant, but a better world, one small step at a time.